Hi friends, it's Miss Erin again. I am going to read one of my very favorite books to you. It's called The Curious Garden, and it's perfect for this time of year when gardens are starting to come alive again. So The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was kind of a dreary place. Looks kind of brown and sad. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days, while everyone was stayed inside, you could find Liam happily splashing through the neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around in the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for a curious boy to do. What do you think's going to happen? Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were there, and they were the last thing he had expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. See? Little patch of wildflowers right there. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants were patiently waiting while Liam found a better way of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel a little bit more like a real garden. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up further and further down the tracks, and they were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. A little bit, and look, the flowers are growing all along the old railway. Look, a beautiful patch of daisies popped up. Some weeds and flowers moving further and further down the tracks. After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit his plants. Look, they're all buried under snow. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Look, he has a whole wheelbarrow full of tools to use in his garden. Winter had taken a toll on the garden, but thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon woke up from their deep winter sleep. Look, everything came back to life. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up further and further from the railway and were closely followed by more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old and forgotten things. Oh, plants are growing in an old car and an old window. A few plants popped up where they shouldn't belong. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. Oh, there's one covering a stop sign and a fire hydrant, And here's somebody dumping a beautiful garden right on somebody's front steps. But the most surprising thing that popped up were new gardeners. Look at all these people wanting to help with the garden. Somebody planted grass and moss on a set of stairs. Big lily pads in a pond. A picnic. Oh my goodness, somebody carved animal shapes out of the bushes. These are called topiaries. They are really amazing. People were making little gardens all over the place. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed, but of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was back where it all began. And look at how much nicer the city looks with all of the green and colors and fresh open spaces. I hope everyone is getting a chance to get outside and enjoy springtime and maybe even plant your own garden. Even I started planting my own little garden. Maybe I'll send you videos of how things are growing. I hope everyone's doing well. Enjoy springtime.